we'll be talking about the Codex Alimentarius Commission. To discuss this subject, we have an expert, Dr. D.S. Chadda. At present, he is Senior Technical Advisor to the CII. I mentioned last time that Dr. Chadda is a very experienced person in the area of the quality control. He started his career in the Punjab government as the chemist and then worked in the different capacities. And he was the ADG PFA in Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. He has represented Indian government in WHO and various other international organizations. He has total 50 years of experience, and to this subject he can handle very well. So I request Dr. Chadda to talk about the Codex Alimentarius Commission, its objectives and its importance to all the stakeholders in the system. Dr. Chadda, please.
Codex Alimentarius. Codex is a Latin word from code, and alimentarius, something which goes through the alimentary canal, and that is food. So that is why Codex Alimentarius Commission is a food code organization which was established in 1962 under the aegis of FAO, Food Agriculture Organization of United Nations, and World Health Organization. So this is a joint organization of two important international organizations dealing with productivity and safety as well. Now, kindly do listen. This is an intergovernmental organization. That means all the government agencies in the world who are regulating the food laws, they are the members of this country by application. And at present, there are 182 countries of the world who are members of this organization. The membership is open to all those who are members of either FAO or WHO. In addition to that, it also has representatives from industry, from consumers, research institutions and others, but they act as an observer. They can take part in the discussions, provide literature, provide technical inputs to the commission, though they do not have a voting right, but otherwise they are participant in every other respect. And commission is an open subject. Everybody can attend it transparently except the executive committee meetings. Now, commission, of course, headquarters, the Codex Commission headquarters is at Rome, whereas it meets now. Earlier it used to meet once in 2 years, but now for the last 2 or 3 years it has been meeting regularly every year, alternatively at the FAO headquarters at Rome and the WHO headquarters in Geneva. So every year this commission meetings are held. Now, what are its main functions? Number one, most importantly, what I said is safety to the consumers, promotion of health of the consumers. But do not lose sight that you must get what you pay for. You must be protected against frauds. You must be protected against misleading claims and so on. So that another main factor is the fair trade practices in food. And fair trade practices and health protection, they do evolve all these codes like good hygiene practices, good manufacturing practices, and the latest food safety management system, that is HACCP, Hazard Analysis Critical Control Point, which is a very important one now in this world of international trade. It provides the levels of contaminants, what can be the maximum. It also provides the type of the additives, their maximum level of use, methods of sampling, methods of analysis, the pesticide residues, the level of toxins, etc., all based on science. Now, what was the need of the Codex? Of course, we will discuss this in the next session, what is the importance of the Codex, but simply I will say here that Codex has a legal status in the WTO organization, World Trade Organization. World Trade Organization, which is a successor to GATT. GATT has no legal status, but the WTO has got a legal status, and under WTO, SPS and TBT agreements, that is sanitary and phytosanitary agreement, and the second one, trade barriers, tariff barriers trades. These two are most important in respect of food. So these two have the legal standi under the WTO organization. In addition to that, there are other bilateral agreements or group agreements where member countries can join. For example, North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA, under the WTO, which is between USA, Canada and Mexico. Similarly, there is another, APEC, Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation Council, where 18 countries of Asia and Pacific region are members. They can have the multilateral or bilateral agreements. Now, the main, I will give you the organizational structure. Overhead is the Codex Alimentarius Commission, 182 members I have stated. Now, then there is an executive committee and the Codex Secretariat. Now, under the commission, it's not that the only commission members meet. They have got about maybe more than 32 today. Originally, they 32 subsidiary bodies. Now, these subsidiary bodies, I will put it, say, divided into 4 types of sectors. One is the horizontal type of committees. The other is the what they call as the general subject. The other is the vertical type of committees, which deal the commodity standards. The third is the coordinating committees, that's the regional geographical coordinating committees. And the fourth, sometimes special task forces, which need some immediate attention, they are also created. So these are the 4 types of subsidiary bodies. Now, let us say what are, for example, means by horizontal committees. Now, there are number of, say, general principles, that the rules of procedure. Food audit is a technical committee. Then I have given the names of the countries who are host to these committees. That means they don't hold it, but generally the meetings of these committees are held in these countries unless some other country, of course, offers his services and he can be host in another country. But generally, the head of these committees will be from general principles France, food additives Netherlands, contaminant China, food hygiene USA, food labeling Canada, analysis and methods of sampling Hungary, pesticide residues Netherlands, veterinary drugs USA, import and export certification system, that is Australia, nutrition and food for special dietary uses, special and important because this I explained you last time. Now these are the foods which are covered under the new Food Safety and Standards Act. So this committee is headed by Federal Republic of Germany. So these are the horizontal committees. That means they deal with all the type of the subjects. Now vertical committees deal with the particular type of food. That is, say, again similarly they have the chairperson, fresh fruits and vegetables Mexico, fish and fisheries Norway, milk and milk products New Zealand, oils and fats UK, fruits and vegetables USA, meat and meat hygiene New Zealand, meat and poultry products, that is Denmark, and cocoa, chocolate Switzerland, sugar UK, vegetable proteins Canada, cereals, pulses, legumes USA, soups and broths Switzerland, natural mineral water Switzerland, edible ices Sweden. So these are the type of the vertical committees deal with each particular subject. and there is a coordination between the vertical committees and the horizontal committees. Horizontal committees suggest that I need this type of additive. Then these committees, of course, horizontal committees, they will consider based on the risk assessment and risk analysis, okay, what should be the maximum level of use of an additive or the maximum level of a contaminant to be permitted, and so thus there is a coordination between these vertical committees and horizontal committees. Now then these are the task forces like fruits and vegetable juices, Brazil, that is biotechnology, your GMO foods which are coming up now, Japan, animal feed, Denmark, and quick frozen foods, Thailand, and antimicrobial resistance, Republic of Korea. Now then there are regional committees. That means depending on the need of the regional committees have also certain authority to suggest certain standards important to that region. Procedure we will discuss later. So they have to undergo the same procedure, but this standard may be applicable in the origin to that region. Ultimately, if need be, if considered necessary, this can be made a worldwide standard also. For example, Regional Coordinating Committee Africa, now current host, it changes almost every year or 2 years. It depends upon the commission or the regional members to nominate, to elect a country who can be the chairman of such committees. Africa, current host is Uganda. Asia, the current host is Malaysia. Europe, Slovakia. Latin America and Caribbean, Dominion Republic. Near East, current host is Egypt. Near East means Gulf countries. North America and Southwest Pacific, Canada. And giant group of experts on standardization, ECE group and others, so on. So these are the different type of structural committees working for the work of the commission. Now the question is consumers, how are they involved? Earlier also I stated that priority function of the commission is to look for the safety of the consumer and fair trade practices. Hence, consumer organizations are generally, as a particular I will say, they are not the regular members otherwise, but they are regular members as an observer. And the interests of the consumers, they are looked after by that international organization consumer. And the Codex that provides assistance to the developing countries for setting up these consumer organizations. So we can see how much interest of the consumers is taken into consideration by the commission. Now, most important thing is the standards, recommendations, code of practices, use of additives, levels of toxicants, etc. They are all based on science. So all those who are there in special subcommittees, they are members not because of the geographical region, but they are members because of their interest and knowledge in that subject. For example, one of the person from India is a member on the food contaminant or additive. It means he is a knowledgeable person in that subject. He may not represent India, but he holds the knowledge which is of course desirable by those expert groups. So that is why knowledge, say chemistry, analytical techniques, technology, microbiology, mycology, pesticide residues, veterinary drugs, and so on. All these knowledgeable persons, they are taken on the expert committees. Now there are 3 expert bodies at present. One is JACFA, that is Joint Expert Committee on Food Additives, which looks after how much additive is to be allowed in a particular food which will be safe from the angle of, I'll say, IDI, daily use, and ADIs and all that. The other one is pesticide residues, JMPR, Joint Meeting of Pesticide Residues. And the third is microbiological risk assessment, JEMR. And the fourth is contaminants. Earlier it used to be, of course, with JACFA, but now being important, this has been separated and there is a special joint expert committee on food contaminants. So members of these expert bodies are members because of their technical knowledge and chemistry, analytical techniques, and everything based on that one. Now, the next question is the most important: how a standard is adopted. It's not that, of course, I suggest a standard and it's adopted by discussion with the Commission. I've already, of course, given you the type of the subsidiary committees. Now, this is an 8-step procedure. In the 8-step procedure that we discussed, you will see a standard is always proposed by a government. Please remember, Codex Alimentarius Commission is an intergovernmental body. So if an industry, a region wants a standard, he will proceed through its national government, who will be a member of the commission. And of course, then the whole draft, this will go into this 8-step procedure. Now, developing such a standard for the whole world, it takes time. So generally, our feeling is it takes 2 to 3 years, but sometimes it may take more even if the commission at one stage refers it back to the subcommittee to make certain further clarification and so. Now the first step is any member country, he can propose to the commission for the drafting, for the providing a standard on a particular project. Now the commission has already drafted type of the criteria. Okay, what should be given if you want a new standard? The criteria generally can the importance of the food commodity, maybe in your region, maybe in other parts of the world, its transshipment, use in various countries, how much is the import and export, and dietary patterns and so on. So that criteria has to be fulfilled. Total production, total import, total use and so on. These factors, they are taken into consideration by the commission before approving that okay, we need this standard. So based on that, of course, the new member country can suggest a standard and what it is called as a proposed draft standard. Proposed. That means it goes the secretariat will send it to the one of those subsidiary bodies, maybe any of these vertical committees that we have seen. So it will go to that subsidiary committee. Now the proposed that draft standard, now that will of course I will say member country and international organization will to be circulated amongst all those 182 members. Actually, the Codex Secretariat has a list of all that, and we will discuss it later. Each country has a national Codex contact point. So the Codex Secretariat will send the proposed draft standard to the Codex contact points of each country for their comments. So this draft standard goes to the countries. The countries on there, they will send their views back to the secretariat. The secretariat will collate all these comments and then will submit it to the subsidiary body. Now this is called step 5. Step 4 I have sent comments received by the secretariat sent to subsidiary body. So step 5 it goes to the commission for the first time now. So that is first round has taken place. That means the views of 82 countries have been taken in the first instance. All these views collated by the secretariat goes to the commission at step 5. Now the commission will of course consider all these comments. It will be circulated of course. Now this draft standard commission of course will consider. Once it approves, there may be some discussion. 182 member countries, somebody has suggested some, the others might have suggested some different standards. So there will be a discussion in the commission. So the commission will make out a summary of what the comments have been given by different countries. Those comments jointly will go back to the Secretariat, and the Secretariat, now this is a draft standard because the proposal has been considered by the Commission. The Commission has approved the proposal with certain modification as considered necessary, and it goes now as a draft standard. So this draft standard is again sent to the subsidiary committee. The subsidiary committee will again call the meeting and will view the comments whatever have been given by the Commission. The Commission views and the members' views now of the subsidiary body. Now that will of course go to the next step, and the whole collated comments will be sent back to the Secretariat. The Secretariat will now send it back to the Commission again, second time. So now the Commission is either again to approve it. If it is approved, this is the last step. That means it becomes a worldwide standard as step 8. And this is a recommended standard for all the countries. Now there is an accelerated procedure. Sometimes there is a need that you adopt a standard little lesser time. Then at step 5, when it goes to the first time Commission, then there, if there is a general agreement, okay, this standard, most of the countries by majority, they agree. So this becomes a final standard at step 8. That means step 6 and 7, they are omitted. So this becomes a second. But remember, although each country has a voting right, but generally the decision is taken by consensus, and it is for the chairman to decide what are the general consensus of the Commission or any of the subsidiary body. If there is of course doubt, then there can be a voting right. And in the voting right, only the leader of the delegation, he votes, one vote for each country, and in the Commission meeting or in the subsidiary bodies, only the leader of the delegation speaks on behalf of the country, or another expert. He can have experts with him. He can speak on the behalf of the leader of the delegation as a representative of the country. So these are the generally detailed rules which have been prescribed in the manual, the first procedural manual, where France is the head. So that is the accelerated procedure. Now, so far, during the last, it was established in 62, now we are in 2009. That means almost 47 years. In 47 years, the Codex has developed about hundreds of standards and guidelines and manuals, limits of pesticides and so on. And now in the next scoreboard, you will see how many times it has provided the standard. 237 food articles, food commodities, they have got the commodity standards, like say fresh juices, or fresh fruits, oils and fats, different oils, mustard oil, other oils, and so on. Similarly, all those commodities committees, jointly total number so far is 237. Now, pesticide evaluation, about 185. MRLs, that means 185 times they have met. They have fixed, I will say, they have studied about 3,274 pesticides residues, and 213 pesticide residues have been provided in the Codex recommendations. Again, remember, now, okay, that we will discuss it of course when we come to SPS system, but by the way I can tell you, it is not mandatory that we accept the Codex standard de novo without looking to it. The Codex standards are generally the guidelines for a country to harmonize their standards. They can have a different standard provided it is science based. They provide justification why they are having a different standard. We will discuss in the next of course session when we discuss about what are the worldwide challenges in the international trade, how the countries have different standards and what is the scope. Anyhow, so these guidelines 25, Food additives, they have evaluated over 1,000 food additives. Veterinary drugs, food safety risk assessments, standards and guidelines, food labeling. Well, I think many of you are now in this process, that new nutritional labeling which is coming up. It is a part of that which has been developed by the Codex Alimentarius Commission. It is not fully the same what Codex has suggested, but India has going in part now. So they have already, of course, suggested, as we discussed last time, the nutritional labeling. You have to give 4 types of nutrients in the beginning. The 4 types is energy, total carbohydrates, and sugar in that, total fat, and protein. In addition to that, please note, very soon there will be coming the other important nutrients like dietary fiber, sodium, etc., because they are based on the recommendations of the World Health Assembly. As you know, that cardiovascular diseases, they are on increase, and the cardiovascular diseases, to curb them, the World Health Assembly has suggested that the Codex Alimentarius Commission should help the countries and the consumers to have a food of their choice, so that they can avoid the food which is not desirable or which do not, I would say, escalate the cardiovascular diseases, heart disease, hypertension, and blood pressure, and so on. So those types of new nutrients will be coming very nearly in the food laws also. Certain countries have already adopted long back. So these are, of course, some of the scoreboard which the Codex has so far developed. Now, Codex function is not only to develop standards, guidelines, codes of practices, valuation, and all that, but very recently, about few years back, they have now created a fund, what is called as a trust fund. It has been generally observed that the developing countries or the least developed countries' attendance is very short, because generally meetings are held either in Rome or Geneva, and certain developing countries may not be able to send their experts to the meeting. So the Codex Commission has now developed a trust fund which is managed by the Commission, and out of the trust fund they provide the expenses to the countries for better participation in the Commission meeting or in the subsidiary meeting wherever they have interest. So this is a very positive factor which the, I will say, Commission has taken to help the least developed and developing countries in participation of an international organization which is setting international standards and requesting the government, all the countries, to harmonize their standards in order to ease the traffic at international trade of food articles. In addition to that, it helps in establishing and strengthening the food control system. Almost all the countries have, maybe smaller or larger scale, the establishment for control of food adulteration, food safety, and so on. So they provide assistance, technical and monetary, both ways. Conducting workshops, training courses, awareness programs. Yeah. Now these are very important. Sometimes the international experts are sent if a country is, of course, organizing a special type of workshop which will be helpful to all the sectors, maybe to the industry, maybe to the government regulators, maybe to the consumer, and they provide technical experts and also awareness program, strengthening laboratory analysis, all these capacity building programs in the countries, many countries they are, of course, and food inspection capabilities, training in food inspection system, helping food control agencies, publishing manuals. They have published a number of manuals on these, all the products, all those standards which are recommended, they are available on the websites. The Codex has launched a trust fund that, of course, I gave you, developing countries to increase their participation in the Commission to help establishing, enhancing food safety and quality standards, capacities, and fair trade practices. Now these are some of the useful websites. You can have more literature. FAO's organization, WHO, World Trade, Codex Trust Fund separately, how many countries have taken advantage of this and how much they have utilized, all information will be available there. And Codex Alimentarius, what type of work they are doing. Now, I mentioned you that it's not possible for the Codex Secretariat, the international organization, to send each circular, each standard, each letter to each individual. So they have requested all the countries, 182 member countries, to establish their national Codex contact point. The function of the national Codex point, we will just see, have a look on that. That is, it will be a central point in a country which will be a liaison between the Codex Secretariat in Rome and between different stakeholders in his own country. For example, here in India, the national Codex contact point is Ministry of Health, Director General Health Services, Nirman Bhavan, maybe now shifting to the new Food and Drug Authority in Food and Drug Bhavan. So that is the national Codex contact point. Each national Codex contact point has constituted, established the national Codex committees. The national Codex committees are similar to the subsidiary committees as established by the Commission. They might establish the same. Now, one function of these Codex contact points is to have the views of the national committees, the national stakeholders, and to present it to the Commission. The most important point. So there is a need, there is a desire, there is a all justification that the national Codex contact point in India should have a direct link, direct understanding, direct participation in the meetings of the National Committee of Food Standard Setting Body, that is Central Committee for Food Standards. That is very, very important. That is, of course, still we are in the formation of that there should be a direct link between the National Codex Secretariat, Codex Contact Point, and the CCFS, because CCFS gives the problems, the difficulties they feel, or the levels of the use of additives, which must be translated in scientific terms and submitted to the Commission. Okay, these may be the problems and all that. For example, I can give you one factor. Now, in the nutritional labeling, we have adopted almost what the Codex has suggested, but the industry has now felt what type of carbohydrates and sugars we should give. All fruits and vegetables, mostly, they contain sugars in themselves, inherent sugar. The Codex wants you give me the total carbohydrates and you also give me the sugar. It is important because sugar is considered to be the cause of diabetes, and which is a cause of all these non-communicable diseases, vascular diseases. So that is why the Codex wants. We agree to that. But the question comes, what type of sugar should I give? How to calculate the inherent sugar? It will vary from one regional fruit to another regional fruit. So there we have to consult the Codex or other members. Okay, what should be the value that we should take into consideration while giving the sugars in that one. So similarly, there can be the difficulties in each region, how to give those values so that they are taken care of on the label as well. So this is the National Codex contact point, Health Ministry is there, and then there is a liaison office, I have already explained, coordinate concerned government departments. Now see, in a recommended standard, Ministry of Agriculture is concerned, Ministry of Consumer Affairs is concerned, Ministry of Commerce is concerned, Ministry of Health is concerned, and there may be others. So this Codex contact point takes into consideration the comments of all the government organizations, in addition the industry and the consumers also, and then makes the total overall view of the government, which is in the interest of import, export, especially taking care the safety and the fair trade practices. So we have also committed, I say, shadow committee. They call it subsidiary committees. Our designation is shadow committees. Now, main functions of these shadow committees, it's a link between Codex Secretariat and India member body in respect of all Codex activities within India. Receive Codex documents, final standards, practices, codes, etc. circulated to all the members, and receive the views, send comments as India member on all Codex documents to the Codex Secretariat. And then when we receive invitation, then of course the subsidiary committees or the shadow committees considers those invitations and finds out whether a delegation must go because we have an interest from our export-import angle. And then they also decide the composition of the delegation, which may include the government regulators, may include the industry representatives, the consumer representatives, and so on. So this delegation, as a representative body of the India, then attends the commission, the subsidiary body meeting or of the commission meeting, and makes its presentation there. So receive invitation from the Codex session and subsidiary bodies, inform all relevant chairpersons of the shadow committees, maintain library. That's also desirable. Of course, it is still lacking. The Codex contact point should have a library which gives you the recommendation, the standards of all different countries, whatever is possible. At least is available on the internet. They can make out one copy and put it in the library. Anybody who is interested can visit the library and consider and see what are the standards in other countries. Promote Codex activities throughout the country. And the composition of this is the Joint Secretary, who is in charge of the PFA, because the subject is to be linked. So whosoever is in charge of the food safety and all that, he is the chairman. At present, it's the Joint Secretary in the Ministry of Health. And then the Joint Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture is a vice chairperson. And then there are members from all departments: Dairy Development, Ministry of Agriculture, then Rural Area Marketing Advisor, AGMARK, Oils and Fats, that is your Ministry of Civil Supplies, Consumer Affairs, then BIS, an important organization setting the voluntary standards which are sometimes mandatory also, and then CFTRI Mysore as a technical body, NIN Director, National Institute of Nutrition, Joint Secretary, Ministry of Department Civil Supplies, Department of Sugar, and Ministry of Food Processing Director, then Agriculture, Ministry of Commerce, Marine Products, that is MAPIDA, and similarly APIDA, Agricultural Products Promotion Council, and so on, and Directorate of Foreign Trade, Spice Board, and APIDA, and Childcare Development, because they look after the infant milk food, and Health Secretary then from the states also, Gujarat, Karnataka, West Bengal, Punjab, FICCI, Representative of Federation of Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, CII, Consumer Education Research Center. These are now consumer organizations. So you see the government regulators, then the industry regulators, and now the consumers also. That is CERC Ahmedabad, VOICE from Delhi, Consumer Unity Trust, CUT from Calcutta, and Citizen Consumer Chennai, and then Assistant Director General in the Department of Health, who looks after the work of the CCFS. He is of course the liaison officer or a member secretary, but recently for the last 2 years we have observed they've established a separate section, what they call as Assistant Director General International Food, and where we have suggested, because we find that there is a loose link between the two, so there should be a close link and coordination between these two, so they can truly represent the India's viewpoint to the commission meeting. Now, what is the importance? Somebody said, if Codex did not exist, somebody would have to invent it, because consumers demand recognition by WTO. We will discuss it in the next. Okay, what is the importance? So far, it relates the standards of the country based on science. It gives guidelines. Now next, we will discuss it in the next session. What is the importance of the Codex standards in international trade? Why are we to obliged to accept them or to defer it, provided we have a science-based justification? So these are some of the points. Codex Commission, somebody has to said, consumer demand, recognition by WTO, growing attendance, especially now after having given assistance. Now we see that the developing countries are now taking a more greater interest because the international trade is increasing. So these are some of the points there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for covering very complex topic in a very simple and systematic manner.